Hi, Kayan here, and I am here with my Hobonichi A6 avec that I use as daily journal pages. And I have been catching up on the month of March, and I have a spread that I need to do. So I thought I'd invite you along, and this will be a real-time video, so you can see exactly how much time I spend doing a spread on these pages. So I'm looking at March 10th and 11th. And I have already a few things sorted out as possibilities, and I also have my little sticky notes of what happened on those days to remind me. So I'm kind of prepared and ready to go. So the first thing I'm doing is I have set aside some old printables to choose from for the dates and days, and I put these on almost all my pages just to label the dates and days, even though they are on the, come with the Hobonichi A6 avec here. You can see in the top corner. I like something a little bit more prominent and a little bit more decorative. So I usually put in a date and day on each page. So this time I'm using some printables from, maybe a year ago. And I have these little rabbit dates left over, and I thought since Easter is this month, it'd be a good time to use these. It is pretty cool that over on Patreon you can get a couple years back worth of printables just with your monthly membership. So there's lots of stuff available over there. I've been doing this for a few years, and I only guarantee leaving it on there for a couple years, but there's lots of good stuff on there. I print these on transparent sticker paper, so they just kind of blend in with the page. So simply cut them out as I need them, and you don't have to cut them as carefully as I am here, but I kind of like to have them not interfere with any journaling or anything like that I might do later. So I've also set aside here some stickers, as well as a little image out of a vintage book. And so I have kind of a few things ready out. I will usually do that and just kind of stick things between the pages while I'm waiting for the time to actually do the journaling. But then that makes me all ready to go when I get to it. I love using printables because it just really speeds up the process of decorating. And while I could journal the whole page, without any decoration, I really use the visual images to kind of clue in what's happening, and then do just a small amount of writing to fill it in. Sometimes I include photos, but on these particular days, I don't think I have any photos to include. So it's going to be more just representation in other ways, either things I draw or things I include imagery like stickers or printables. Now I'm cutting out some other days of the week because I feel like the ones that I have on the page might be a little bit much to have both days that, and I kind of like the name of the day and the date to kind of match each other. And now that I see what the little rabbit date with the 11th looks like, I don't feel like the other Monday goes with it very well, so I'm looking at using something else instead. I usually try to not spend too long deliberating, but once in a while, some little decision like this kind of sidetracks me and I spend a little time on it. But when you're doing your own pages, don't feel like that's necessary. There's not any pressure for these to be perfect. It's more about getting your day recorded, and recording the days helps me appreciate the days and remember the things I have to be grateful for. I often use these little bits to cover up the printing that it's in there. It is in Japanese, which I do not read, so I kind of ignore those little written patches and often use that as an area just to stick something on top of. And here I'm opening up a sticker book where I have like my odds and ends, when there's just a little bit left on a sheet, I stick those in there. And I'm reaching for a church because the 10th was a Sunday and we went to church, and so that's kind of an important part of the day, so I'm making sure that I get that included on there somewhere. It is also printed on transparent sticker paper, so it's just easy for me to place it then. I can see exactly where it's going to go, and it's going to blend right in with the page. This little artist elephant is a watercolor that I did in a sketchbook a while back, and this particular sticker was a sample for some stickers that I did end up purchasing. But this little sample sticker has like a little tab on it. It's not a perfect sticker, so I kind of saved it for my own use. The little monster holding the jar of art supplies over there to the right was another sticker of mine that was in the running. It's one of my favorites. But I decided on the elephant instead this time. This day was the day that the time changed for daylight saving times that we have in our state. And so I'm pulling out this little children's book that I've used pretty often to look for a little something to have to do with time. I thought for a minute there about drawing something, but then I thought, well, let me check there first and see if I already have an image that's just ready to go. Children's books are a great source of little images to include in your journals. You can usually get them really inexpensive, next to nothing at garage sales or thrift stores, or even just in your own stack of things. If you're getting rid of old children's books, we have a lot from my own family that were damaged over time, but still have some good illustrations that are usable in them. So that's what I'm pulling out of now. So there's this little photo of a watch, so I thought that would be a good way to represent the time change. A lot of my images that I choose are just to represent something. They're obviously not going to be exact unless it's like a photo of something in my life, but I think about what's representative. It's sort of a little bit like a rebus picture writing. So I put pictures in there, and I may or may not put words to describe it further. I use a glue stick to stick anything like this down that isn't already on sticker paper like my printables are. So I'm just using a glue stick, sticking it down. There's a lot of glue sticks that are just fine. I'm not super picky about which ones I use. This happens to be Uhu that I have here at my desk, but I'll use pretty much any glue stick. So I'm sticking that down to show the time change. The next thing I want to record about this day is that we had company in the evening, and so I thought I just would maybe make a drawing, because I don't have anything that I think would be a easy thing to stick in, and I do like to include some drawing in my books. It's not only is it good practice for me, I just think it personalizes the journal, and I keep it simple and quick. I don't spend a lot of time on these drawings, but I'm just sketching in here. We had chicken noodle soup and some garlic bread for a very simple supper, and just thought I would kind of draw those elements in here and then use some watercolor to paint them in. So I just do a simple pencil sketch to kind of give the idea of those, and then I can add paint, and I usually add some pen and ink as well, just to accent. If you want to see the setup for my go-to palette of watercolors, I revamped them recently and have a whole new selection arranged in there, and I have a video on that if you would like to take a look at it. I'll link that down below. As I said, though, I keep these illustrations very simple, very quick. I need them to be very doable so that I don't spend too much time on each spread. All said, I think this spread ended up taking me around 20 minutes for the 2 days, which isn't too bad. If I keep it up, I often do a batch of them at a time, so there's probably some spreads that I spend a little less time than that. But as you can see, my focus here is getting those images down, but I want to leave a little space for writing. And so I kind of have a pretty good feel for how much space I want to write. If I know that there's a lot I want to write about on a day, then I will leave more space available. And if I know that I really am not going to go back and do much writing and it's more about decorating the page, then I'll just fill up the page with images. Either way is fine. This is my journal and it's here to serve me. So whatever works for me on each particular day is what I aim for. This blue that I'm painting with now is actually a Neocolor 2 crayon that I have scraped into a little half pan and use as if it was a watercolor or gouache. I do really enjoy these colors. They mix well with watercolor or gouache, and so my palette, I call it my watercolor palette, but it is actually a water-soluble materials palette. I'm going to put on a short dab of music while I finish painting that up, and then I'll be right back with you. I'm jumping on to the next day now, and on this day I did a lot of research. I've been wanting a kind of a secondary camera and an on-the-go small little thing to take along. I thought about like GoPro or something like that. What I ended up researching, which I'm drawing a picture of here, was the Insta360 Go camera. And so I'm kind of sketching an image of that. That is what I ended up getting. And this day, though, was just about doing some research on it. So I watched some videos and read some reviews and things like that. I'm not real good with technology, but it is kind of a necessary part of my job. And so hopefully this will help me get some of those other little angle shots, or have when I'm out and about, or when I'm like sketching on location or things like that. Hopefully this will be a useful tool. But this day I was just doing the research on it. I thought it'd be fun to make my little artist elephant look like he was standing on top of this camera. This camera is like super tiny, like that's almost probably accurate size that I've drawn it right there on the page. And so the idea of an elephant standing on it is a little bit humorous. But again, I'm just using my watercolor to just do pretty simple basic painting here. The camera is black, so I'm not making it very colorful. I'm just keeping it true to its black self. But I am using one of my favorite watercolors is this Tundra Violet, which is a granulating color by Schminke. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but it's one of my favorite watercolors. So any reason to use it, I use it instead of black. So it's actually this kind of violet that has some browns in it, and I think it's just beautiful color. So I always enjoy using it. I'm going to put on another little dab of music while I finish painting this, and then I'll be right back. Do want to pop on here to say, if you enjoy watching these kind of videos, you can find even more over on my Patreon. I show a lot more of my journaling pages over there. It is free to be a member there, and then there's paid tiers as well. So go check that out over on my Patreon. The link's down below. Just going in, adding a little bit of shadow here on my previous illustrations, just to kind of set it on the page and add some, make it stand out a little bit more. The paintbrush I had handy was really way too small for this job. It took me a little while to paint in all that camera with this tiny little brush, but I was just kind of in the groove and didn't want to disrupt that and get up and get a different brush, so just made do with what I had handy. To use this little elephant, I wanted to trim away some of that white part because I really wanted him to look like he's standing on the camera, so I just trim a bit of that white border to be a little bit smaller so that you can see the camera between his legs, and then I peel it off of that. Like I said, it's got kind of a funny little tab since it was a sample sticker, so I have to work a little bit to get that off. The ones you buy are not like that. They, you know, don't have the little extra tab on it. And just getting him in place on top of the camera. I raise him up so that his feet look like they're standing on the top of the camera. I don't worry about having to trim things off that go off the side of the page. I kind of like the look of that actually, so that doesn't bother me. I think the camera and the elephant kind of blend in nicely together, look like they're just part of all one illustration, and so I kind of like that. I'm pulling out my fountain pen box. This was a gift from Wood that is on our land, and it's just a really special box. I keep my special pens in there, and I have been finding it's a lot funner to journal using a nice pen that just feels nice on the paper. Fountain pens work lovely on this Tomoe River paper, so it's just a pleasure to write. I don't have a lot of writing to do, but I do want to fill in these spaces that I have. I didn't record my whole writing process because that's kind of boring, but you see me getting started here, and then in a little bit I'll show you the finished pages. But I'm using a Lamy fountain pen, like the most inexpensive in their line, and I have put in it, I believe this has a Ferris Wheel Press Adventuring ink. It looks kind of pretty black though, so I think maybe it has some of the ink, the previous ink that I had before in there mixed in with it. It is not a water-soluble ink, and so I have to pay special attention to that, to not do like watercolor over it or anything like that. And you know, it's fine if I'm mindful of that and have already done whatever watercolor I'm going to do. A lot of times I do use a permanent ink in here for that very reason, so I can watercolor on top of it later. But I do like the feel of this pen. So here's the finished page with all the journaling done. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.